Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans. From a diehard Houston sports fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Houston Astros fan podcaster. I'm a podcaster, producer, comedy writer, and creative multi-hyphenate. Of course, I'm a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I have been petitioning the Guinness Book of World Records to let me in the book for eating the most amount of Shipley's donuts in a lifetime. I feel like I've eaten all the Shipley's donuts. Come at me if you've eaten more Shipley's than me. I defy you. I've been a comedy writer in LA for the last decade or so, and now I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You just accept LAX as an acceptable experience, and they give you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brother. Please check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, whatever way you'd hear that homonym there. You know, I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project because most media is just infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros and most other Houston sports teams, whether it's the Rockets, where most people think we're annoying fans. I don't know exactly how we got that allegation, or the Texans, who are just kind of forgotten about up until this season. You know, here on this podcast, we try not to be doom and gloom fans, or worse, national media haters. We love our teams and root for them, but we also want to discuss the ins and outs of our teams without too much homerism or carrying water. Key word here is try. We try to be reasonable, not too hot-takey or reactionary, but not just too lovey-dovey and looking at it through H-Town glasses either. Now that football season is here, basketball season has started, the Houston Dynamo are in the playoffs. There are a lot of things to talk about in this podcast. We're recording this transmission here in sunny LA. I am joined as always by my co-host and co-producer here, the Roz to my Fraser. Carla the dog is here with me. She may get on mic from time to time. Frequent listeners of the podcast know that. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. She is the one who has the hot takes on the podcast. On this episode, we are getting back to Paul's picks. I missed the podcast yesterday to get ahead of the Thursday night game, but fret not. I would have got that game wrong anyway, apparently. I definitely would have gone with the Vikings over the Rams. The Rams won that game 30-20. So instead of getting too upset about missing the podcast, I'm just going to chalk that one up as a loss for me. That is what I put in my own Pigskin Pick'em league that I'm playing in. So I definitely took that loss there. We're going to talk about Paul's picks. Move over, Jimmy the Greek. I'm Paulie the Geek. We got that going on. We're looking to look at the spreads and the over-unders. We're going to check in with the Rockets as their season has lifted off officially. We're going to stop by Dynamo Corner, and apparently there's baseball still going on. If my GPS here in LA has warned me of that. But you know, we'll talk about podcasts. We'll talk about podcasts. Of course, we're going to talk about baseball, a little later in the podcast. You know, I want to give, before we get completely into it, a huge g'day, mates, to all of my Australian listeners. If you're a new listener to this podcast, you know, earlier in baseball season, I was very happy to be in the top 105 of Australia's baseball podcasts. I bet you can't guess where I ranked in the top 105, but I was in the top 105, and I was pushing for more Australian listeners. So if you are an Australian listener out there, good day. I hope you are well. Let's get into these Paul's picks here. Let's look back at week 7 here. Week 7 was a pretty good week for me. Not my best week, that's for sure. I am actually not prepared for this, so let's go back into the app here. I was 11-4 for the week. Wow, I was better than I thought I was. Truly, is that accurate? I'm like, is that how well I did? Yeah, I was 11-3 in week 6, and I was able to be 11-4 in week 7. I definitely just wasn't prepared for that. I thought I got 10 wins, but I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's 11 wins. Man, pretty good week for me. But obviously, there are other players in the league that had a better week than I did. But let's kind of look back at it. I always recap the losses I took. Where did I get it wrong? Obviously, I started out at the gate wrong with the Thursday night game. I picked New Orleans over Denver, which was a bad choice. I thought these Saints were better than they were. Let's be honest, I was pretty high on them. I was riding them a lot this season. But as they are 2-5, obviously I have not been accurate as to how much they would win football games, and losing to the Denver Broncos definitely highlighted my folly there. So unfortunately, to my brothers and sisters and friends from New Orleans, I'm sorry, but these Saints, I have lost faith in them. Please welcome me back to your city. Even though I've lost faith in the Saints, I still want those beignets and that delicious food from my sister city out there in New Orleans. But this was not their week. I got that one wrong. I also got wrong Seattle versus Atlanta. I just, I wasn't the only one to get that wrong. Apparently on the Sleeper app, only 25% of users chose Seattle to win the game. So Atlanta was heavy favorites, but Seattle won the game 34-14. I have liked Seattle. I thought, I believe my thought process for this game was that Seattle was the best bad team, and Atlanta is the worst good team. So I was going for the good team to win this, but Seattle, obviously, while I'm making fun of these teams, Seattle is very much still a good team. They proved me wrong there. I obviously, I like my Southern teams going with New Orleans and Atlanta, and the West teams definitely taking them there. Another one I got wrong was my beloved Houston Texans. Obviously, I talked about this in the Houston Texans recap podcast here. They lost 22-24 to the Green Bay Packers in a close one. I thought it was going to be a close one. I thought it was going to be a back-and-forth slugfest game. Unfortunately, for me as a Texans fan, the Green Bay Packers ended up with the ball last and won the game. There were so many other ways this game could have gone. It isn't just because they had it last, but the Packers ended up winning that slugfest. That was a tough one, but I got that one wrong. Moving on, I also picked Minnesota to upset Detroit there. Detroit was able to get the win 31-29. Just trying to get cute there. My little cute impression, trying to use those filters on Snapchat and TikTok to really make myself look cute. But you could tell how hideous my pick was. The Tigers, oh my gosh, sorry Detroit. The Lions ended up winning that game by a couple of points. It was a close one. I feel good. I still like the pick. It was me being cute, me being a little sassy, as Phil Hartman would say. That's sassy. I was trying to be sassy. It didn't quite work out for me, but it wasn't that bad of a sassy pick. But those were my 4 losses for the week. I love it when the week goes my way and I am able to brag about it by not going over too many games because I didn't lose too many games. That week 2 or week 3 when I had like 9 losses, 8 losses, that was a rough one. That was too long of a podcast for me. Go ahead and moving on. Let's look back at my week 7 picks. I went ahead and I went with, oh man, okay. I always have a Paul's pick of the week, where it's like, kind of if you're in an eliminator, if you're doing straight up, who I think is going to be your safest bet to win the week. I always go with that. And I also always have a Carla's dog of the week. We look at the underdogs. We see which underdogs I'm choosing for the week to win, and Carla chooses from those underdogs. So, full disclosure, I always say this is a comedy podcast first and foremost. If you're coming here primarily for your picks, I welcome you, but also I'd like to remind you that this is comedy. We'll get into how well I've done. In fact, why wait any longer? On this season, I am 68-56. Before this week, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. What did I say? 60. No, I'm 60. Sorry, 68-56. I don't remember exactly what I said, but just in case I got that wrong, it's not too bad for a comedy podcast, but obviously, take it with a grain of salt. Carla picked the dog of the week last week. I gave her 3 options, and she chose a treat, and the treat that was marked with Pittsburgh was what she picked, and Pittsburgh ended up winning last week. So good job, Carla. She was able to win there. Pittsburgh won 37-15 against the New York Jets. What a great pick from Carla and me. I have to pat myself on the back, but good job, Carla, as well. For Paul's picks, I was looking at Buffalo and Washington. I believe I went with Washington there. Washington won 40-7 against the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, solid pick in retrospect. I don't think anybody was arguing with me, but also Buffalo beat Tennessee 34-10. So those were, we had a really good week. 11 wins, getting the Carla's dog of the week right, getting Paul's pick of the week right, and generally giving good advice. I've earned the title of Paulie the Geek in that week. Let's hope this geek keeps rolling this week as we look ahead to NFL Week 8, even though I totally missed Thursday night. So, we'll forgive Paulie the Geek for that one for sure. Minnesota versus LA Rams. Minnesota was my pick. Obviously, I said earlier I would have picked them. I got that one wrong. I would not have even done. Oh, there's Carla. Wouldn't have done too much hand ringing there, but I would have went with Minnesota in this game, and I admit it. At least I took the loss for not getting my pick into the podcast, but also I would have got it wrong. So we're definitely, instead of trying to have a revisionist history thing, we're owning our mistakes. I picked Minnesota in my sleeper app for my league. I was able to get that in. It's a little easier to do that than record a podcast, so I was able to do that. But starting off the week in the hole is not the way to do it, so we're going to try to pick these winners for y'all. Looking ahead, we have our Sunday games, Philadelphia versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored here at home by 2.5 points. The over-under here is 48. The Bengals favored at home. Honestly, I've got to say, it makes me a little suspicious. I'm a little nervous here. Y'all know this. If you have even been paying attention to football normally, even if you're not doing a lot of picks, you know that the Bengals can be a little suspicious sometimes as a team. You can be skeptical of them. They are favored to win. I probably shouldn't pick the Bengals, who will Bengal this game on purpose. They'll know I picked them and they'll go against me. But they're also playing against Philly, who could kind of Uno reverse card their stink. I'm really not sure who to go with here, but I'm gonna go with the road dogs here to surprise the Bengals. That's right. We're getting cute with it right out of the gate. We took that loss, so we're trying to make it up by getting cute, I guess. I'm going to go with Philly here as the underdog. I'm not sure of the Bengals. I'm not sure of Philly either, but I think in this matchup, if I'm doing my simulation in my head, I'm going to go with Philly here. Moving along to Baltimore versus Cleveland. Cleveland are home dogs. They're underdogs by 8.5 points. The over-under is 44.5. Baltimore. Why even think too hard about this? Baltimore and moving along. No commentary. Tennessee versus Detroit. Detroit is favored at home heavily by 11.5 points. The over-under here is 45, and wow, somehow even more easy to pick this game than the last game. We're going with Detroit here. I feel bad for Titans fans, kinda, because honestly, after they wore those Oilers unis, I kind of root for their sadness. So, Tennessee's looking at a tough year. This might be a tough game for them at Detroit. Moving on to Indianapolis versus Houston. Houston is favored at home by 5 points. The over-under is 45.5. And this is a big game for my AFC South fans. My AFC South fans. I don't know if that's not correct. None of us are fans of an entire division, but for my fellow Houston Texans fans is what I'm trying to say. This is a big game for our division. Houston should win this, but the Colts are right now, the biggest competition within this division. The Texans need to prove that they are serious this season with a decisive win at home here against the Colts. I think they have it in them. Obviously, we want to see some better offensive line play. We're definitely looking very skeptically and very with a critic's eye at the offensive play calling. These Texans are going to have to win this game decisively. I'm looking for it. I think this is a big game. I hope people go out to the game and make some noise for their Texans. This doesn't seem like a huge marquee matchup. A lot of people are very, very high on the Texans right now. I am too, obviously. I'm doing a podcast about them. I'm a fan. But, I think they've got to kind of prove it a little bit here after a tough loss at Lambeau. Moving on to Green Bay versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville are home dogs. They are +4 in this game with a 49.5 over-under, the highest over-under. After seeing Green Bay last week, I don't see how the Jacksonville Jaguars can win this one. I'm sorry to Jason from The Good Place, but I just don't think that they have this here. We're going to go with the Packers, and once again, we're rooting against an AFC South team. Next game, Arizona versus Miami. Miami is favored by 4.5 points with a 46 over-under. And it's time to talk Tua because Tua is back. He's been making a lot of headlines, obviously, having another concussion. He has decided not to wear a Guardian helmet, and the internet is completely popping off. I honestly can't imagine what it's like to be Tua, but more than anything, and especially before I start giving out unasked advice and opinions, I'm truly hoping for the best for this man and for this person. I hope that he takes care of his health and himself and his family. It's a very difficult place to be in, and he is a human being. It's really hard to see celebrities or actors or athletes or artists sometimes as humans, but this is a human being, and I really do feel for him. I'm hoping the best for this man. I'm hoping a lot, but the human side of this aside, we're also hoping for good health for Tua and good offense in this game. People are saying it's Miami's week to bounce back. I think it's Miami's defense here that we're going to focus on. The defense here is going to win it for the team in, what I will say is going to be a very interesting game to say the least. I can't sit here and give advice to anybody when I don't play football and I don't know the situation. I don't know the stresses that Tua must be under. But I really hope that he prioritizes his health and his safety more than anything. I mean, when you can only make money for a very short amount of time, I also understand that, he's probably, he's looking at a lot of things here. So, I'm hoping for health and a safe future for Tua, and that that we give him the space to make that decision. And I'm just rooting for the best for him and for his safety. And we'll hope the football game is one to completely enjoy and watch and not worry about all the other aspects of football. But truly, this is one of the reasons why I don't know why I'm tiptoeing around it. We all care about player safety, and this is one of the reasons why I found it hard to really watch a lot of football when a lot of fans don't have a lot of love for these human beings that are out there, putting their bodies on the line for our entertainment. A lot of people think that because they get paid money that they should just be grateful for the opportunity, or they just don't care about the carnage that these people's bodies take on a daily basis and for our entertainment purposes on a weekly basis when it's televised. So I'm really hoping that for the best for Tua, and that for the best for the league, for taking care of its players. I don't care about the league in and of itself, but the league actually taking care of its players is what I care about. I'm hoping the league can do its best to take care of Tua here, and it's just a tough situation. This is what football is about, and what football will be about for decades to come. And as we figure out what to do with this violent sport and try to reconcile it in a way to keep players safe and keep human beings safe, but still be able to enjoy aspects of this game. We're just hopeful that he is healthy and that he has enough protection to keep him healthy going forward. Moving off of this subject and onto another one, the New York Jets are playing the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are home dogs by 7 points. They're given a 41 over under, and yikes. This is a bit of a stinker of a game, maybe even unwatchable, I would say. I'm picking the Jets here. I thought Jared Mayo could be a good coach, but maybe, this was just an early scouting report that could change. He hasn't been looking as formidable or as good of a rookie coach as I thought he would be in the beginning of the season. I obviously don't follow the team as closely as others do, but this is going to be a tough game, I fear. I'm thinking the talent on the Jets beats head-scratching head coaching from both sides. I'm just going to go with the Jets. Obviously, I don't root against certain coaches or anything when they're new. I root for everybody to have some kind of success in the league. But I'm just watching Coach Mayo to see how he does moving forward, because this is a tough spot to be in. That New England Patriots head coaching job was going to be a tough one no matter who took it. But he's going to face a lot of criticism is all I'm saying. Moving on to Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is underdogs at home by 2.5 points. The over-under is 46. I've been all about Atlanta all season, and I have been suspicious of Tampa all season as well. Well, that continues here because I'm taking Atlanta on the road, and maybe that's just because I need Kirk Cousins to have a great game for my fantasy team, but I'm feeling good about Atlanta. We're picking them and moving on. New Orleans versus the LA Chargers. The Chargers are favored at home by 7 points. The over-under is 40.5. The Chargers defense will beat the Saints offense, period. That's how I'm feeling right now. So I think the Chargers take this one from this bit of a mid matchup here. Moving on to Buffalo versus Seattle. Seattle are home dogs, given 3 points here, plus 3 at home. The over-under is 46.5. Buffalo is trending up, and Seattle, even though they won that huge game last week, but I'm still taking the Bills on the road here. This could be one of those games. If Seattle wins this, it's really going to change the way I think about Seattle going forward, which could mix me up or put me in my head. But I'm going with Buffalo here. I think Seattle is perhaps a surprising team. It's not like I've been picking completely against them, but I think they're better than we give them credit for. I can't go against Buffalo here. Then we have Carolina versus Denver. Denver is negative 11 points at home with a 41 over under. I had to read that again before I said it to make sure it was right. I wrote it down a couple times and I was even looking at it as I wrote it down like there's no way this is right. But wow, giving the Broncos negative 11 here is wild because no one really believes in this Denver offense outside of Sean Payton maybe, but obviously no one believes in the Carolina offense or defense. Apparently, this might be. I'm not the only one to say it, but a lot of people are saying this Carolina team, it might be one of the worst teams that we've seen in a while. I haven't watched enough of them to really say, but goodness, this team is not favored any week. We'll see how the Panthers do this season, but it's looking like no one believes in them. So we'll see. We'll see how they do. It's definitely not their year. Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders is your next game. The Vegas Raiders at home are home dogs. They are +9. The over-under is 41.5. Another big point spread here. This week has a lot of decisive winners here. Might be one of the easier weeks if this week lines up to be as chalky as everyone is thinking it is. Somehow I think the Chiefs will find a way to make it a little bit closer than the spread might suggest. Hint, hint, my gambling friends out there. Obviously, I can't say for sure. I'm just thinking the Chiefs have been playing to their talent, I guess, maybe a lot, or just making a lot of games close. I don't know. But this also is the Raiders. I'm not feeling like this is some kind of team that can hang with the Chiefs. I'm just saying that the Chiefs have had a really surprising undefeated season this season so far. But you can't root against them here. That obviously you feel like they're going to win the game, especially now that Tennessee has decided to trade my man D-Hop to the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't wait to see what Hopkins does on the Chiefs. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of D-Hop. I think him and Patrick Mahomes can make a good connection here. This could be a very frustrating slash, happy kind of end towards his career for Hop and for D Hop and Texans fans here if he's able to make a good playoff push with the Chiefs. But man, what a frustrating thing of the rich just get richer, So we'll see how D Hop does on the Chiefs. I have a feeling I'm going to be happy / very frustrated by the whole experience. Moving on to Chicago versus Washington. Washington are home dogs, another home dog team. Underdog at home, they are +3. 43 is your over-under. Both teams are kind of media darlings right now. A solid defense in Chicago versus a solid offense in Washington. Unfortunately for Washington, their defense is also a mess, and for that reason, I'm taking Chicago. This could have a feel of kind of a bit of a shootout game, a slugfest, but I'm definitely going to take Chicago here. I just think their defense wins it here. Dallas at San Francisco. San Francisco is favored by 4 points. The over-under is 47. The 49ers should take this one at home, period. Moving on. New York Giants versus Pittsburgh Steelers is your Monday night game with the Steelers favored by 6 points at home with a 36.5 over-under, making it the lowest over-under of the week. Exactly what they're looking for that Monday night matchup. Pittsburgh in this game, that might be tough to watch, I feel like is going to be the winner. I don't think we need to overthink it. I think it will be Pittsburgh. But I don't know if anybody is really excited about this game outside of New York and Pittsburgh. I definitely will give it a watch if I'm free. It might be one of those that I just watch the YouTube clip package of it. Is this must-miss TV? I don't know. We will see. Let's move ahead to the Paul's pick of the week. We do have a lot of options here with so many favorites, so many wild spreads, so many big spreads here. We're looking at Kansas City, we're looking at Pittsburgh, Denver, even perhaps with that wild spread. Detroit or Baltimore are all big favorites in this week. We're gonna eliminate Kansas City. I'm sorry. We should eliminate Kansas City first because I just don't trust them. Pittsburgh against the Giants. There's something about that seems trap-ish, so we're gonna avoid that. Detroit and Baltimore seem like better picks. Denver I like because you have them against Carolina. Like if you're in an eliminator pool and you haven't chosen Denver, this is the week for Denver, that's for sure. But when we're looking at Detroit and Baltimore, I kind of like those games a little bit better. I know I've definitely picked Detroit as a Paul's pick in the past. I'm going with Detroit as the Paul's pick of the week because I just don't see in any kind of multiverse or simulation how Tennessee wins this game against Detroit. Because of that and because of my fury towards the Titans, I hope I'm not jinxing them, but we're going with Paul's pick. That can be a bit of a jinx sometimes. We're going to go with Detroit, and I'm sorry to Detroit fans. Carla's pick of the week. Carla's dog of the week, I should say. It should be fairly straightforward. We will give her an offering of a treat, even though she doesn't have treats to choose from. But she is going to go with Philadelphia as the dog of the week. Carla's dog of the week has only hit once, and it was last week when she picked the dog of the week. So I'm hopeful that me making this beef jerky offering to her will make this officially her pick and she will sign off on it. And, because we are 0-7 when I choose the Carla's dog of the week, but we're 1-0 when Carla chooses the dog of the week. So we're hoping for that. Obviously, I told you my pick'em total this week. This year so far, I'm 68-56 on the season. Obviously, I picked up my 57th loss yesterday. For those of you who are keeping track at home, let's go ahead and move on to a fantasy football check-in here. We checked in with Paul's picks with my Huckle Pick'em League. We're looking at how I'm doing on the season. Let's look at how I did fantasy football wise on week 7. Truly, I was set up to lose this game. Those who have listened to the podcast, that I am playing Abby, my good friend Abby, good theater friend, good pal that I was roommates with Abby back in the day when she lived out here in LA, and she lived with me and her future husband, which wasn't me. Obviously, let's be clear, Michael Gamble. Abby and Michael Gamble now live out in Texas and are really good friends of mine. I thought they both are incredible fantasy players. They both are great at pick'em. They're top of the charts there in pick'ems. Let's actually see if I could, instead of just claiming things, let's see exactly where they lie. Michael Gamble is first in the Pick'ems League, and Abby is third, 1 point behind who is in second place right now. So she is a very formidable fantasy football player and manager. I was projected to lose this match. At the end of Sunday going into Monday, I had a 6% chance of winning this per the Sleeper app. And because of a huge game from Breece Hall, and because of a huge game from Dicker the Kicker, I ended up getting 46 points on Monday night and winning the week 111.88 to 102.04 against Jeff Poole and Wolverine, Abby's team. It was a great week for me. I went on to 5-2. I am now in the Fantasy Football League in the standings. I am now in third place. As I'm in third place is 5-2. I've been picking up players like I streamed defenses last week. I really thought my defense did me in. I picked up the New Orleans Saints, who only got 4.5 points from me in my half PPR league here. I thought for sure that ruined me. I was really frustrated by that choice, but I was able to salvage the week. I haven't used a waiver pickup in a while, so I have a nice spot. I'm third in the waiver wire order. I'm looking ahead, and I obviously dropped the Saints. I now have the Chargers as my defense going into this week. Obviously, I'm so frustrated by the Saints that I dropped their defense and picked who's going up against the Saints. The Chargers are also a solid defense. I mean, a lot of people stream defenses. I was very happy they were available for me this week going forward. This week in week 8, I'm actually playing a really close friend, and I mean everybody in this league is a really close friend, so it's redundant to say that. But good friend Matt Lusk and I are battling it out this week. Right now, after the Thursday night matchup, I am 56% chance to win. But truly, he has a good team. He is due for some wins. He hasn't done too well this season. I'm a little nervous that this can be a bit of a trap game for me, because I feel like I'm so confident. But I it's fantasy football. Why should I be so confident? Just because it says that you're going to win doesn't mean you're going to win. But we will see. Let's go ahead and talk some Houston Rockets basketball at the end of this podcast here. Your Houston Rockets opened their season against Charlotte and lost the game. It was a tough loss. Let's kind of pull that up. It was 110 to 105 in that game. Let's pull up this box score and everything here. Why is it not up? I thought I had all this up, folks. I am sorry, but obviously, Alpi had a really good game. Shingun played 33 minutes in that first game. He got 25 points with 18 rebounds and 5 assists. And at the half, it looked like he was possibly even going to score 30 points and get 20 rebounds. He was playing incredible. Jalen Green had 28 points in this game as well. We also got to see Reed Shepherd play his first game. Reed went out. He had played for 15 minutes, got 4 points and 3 assists and 2 rebounds. Amen Thompson, however, really was a guy off the bench that provided a lot for the Rockets in this game, picking up 21 minutes and 13 points and 4 rebounds. Cam Whitmore also had 8 points as well, 8 minutes and 4 points in this game as well, coming off the bench. Truly in this game, trying to pick up. Go to my other app where I can look at the stats a little bit better. I can't pull up the stats I was really hoping to here, the kind of team stats and overall type stats here. Here we go. There we are. I knew I had it somewhere. The rebounding was really a problem for the team, obviously. The Hornets were able to get 56 rebounds in the game. The Rockets were held to 43 rebounds, really not going to do it. The three-point shooting was also a bit abysmal, shooting 30.2% on free throws. Overall, their shooting field goal percentage was also not great, with 36.9% field goal percentage. So just some pretty tough shooting in this game. Tough offense overall. They did get 8 steals, low amount of blocks, 4 blocks, 13 fast break points was nice, but a low 28 bench points was a bit of a surprise there with how deep the Houston Rockets are and what we expect from them this season. They also led at one point by 18 points. So this was a game that kind of slipped away from the Rockets. In the second half, the Hornets were able to score 61 points to win and close out the game. Obviously some defensive issues there, some shooting issues, and it looked like just some, perhaps, we're going to have to figure out this rotation a little bit. It might be the type of thing where we have so many options and so many good players that trying to find that rotation might be a bit of a struggle. And obviously in this game, there was no Steven Adams. Steven Adams was not healthy enough to play for the game. I'm really curious as to how this team is going to shake out going forward. I think they have a lot of talent. I am looking forward to what this season is going to bring. But this first step in the season has made me a little bit nervous. I'm not saying that they're not going to be a good team or they're not playoff ready. Jalen Green and Alpi, they look like they can make some noise on a playoff team if we can figure it out. But I do think that head coach Ume Adoku is really going to have to figure out how this rotation is going to shake out and how to motivate these guys to kind of get back to their crashing the boards and good defensive play. It was a tough matchup. Well, not a tough matchup, but it was just kind of like a little bit of a trap matchup, I guess, to begin. Maybe they just weren't quite ready for the Charlotte Hornets. And that's just really, truly, and honestly a tough thing to say. Hopefully they will turn it around. I'm not panicking early. We might have to take a page out of the Houston Astros playbook and get the Space Cadet Sports official Houston Rockets panic meter. I'm not panicking yet. I'm just saying, this team has some figuring things out to do. Obviously, I didn't even talk about the bad threes or just, kind of Fred VanVleet ball handling towards the end of the game. But hopefully they will just move forward. Tonight, they are playing the Memphis Grizzlies at home. Houston is favored, but we're hoping for a dominant Houston Rockets victory here. Moving on to the Houston Dynamo, the Western Conference first round starts on Monday next week. That's match 1. The number 4 seeded Seattle Sounders? The Seattle Sounders are playing against your number 5 Houston Dynamo on Monday night. That's going to be at 5:50 p.m. at Lumen Field. The first game is in Seattle. The second game is in Houston on Sunday. And the third game will be in Seattle if needed the following Sunday. So it's grind to shine, Houston. Let's get out there and give these Dynamo our support and our energy. It should be a lot of fun to see them in the playoffs, folks. Moving ahead to the WNBA, the New York Liberty won their first WNBA chip. Sabrina Ionescu had a Letterman jacket out during the parade. Really reminded me of the Houston Texans Lettermans that I really liked when they came out, but also kind of cursed us, so we won't talk about them anymore. We'll see how Sabrina does with her jacket and if there's any kind of Letterman curse or if the Liberty are able to have another good season. Don't like talking about New York too much, but congrats to the Liberty. Speaking of New York, apparently there is still baseball going on. This might be the worst World Series matchup in quite some time for me. But yeah, apparently let me read this. The LA Dodgers are playing the New York Yankees in the World Series. Sorry, these are just names I haven't heard in World Series contention in a couple years, so I just wanted to make sure I read them correctly. We'll see how they do. No matter who wins, we lose, but we will see, because apparently there's still some kind of baseball going on in this world. Moving ahead really quickly to the Texans' next game, they're going to play the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, we talked about it previously when we were talking about the Texans earlier, when we were talking about the Colts. But this is a big game, folks. This is a definitive game for you Houston Texans, because I believe this is when we kind of put the rest of the division on notice, the rest of the AFC South on notice, and let them know that we are the big boys in the division and we are in charge and we're not stressed about the rest. So hopefully these Texans will have a great and dominant game against the Colts. I'm predicting it, but also, I'm praying for it deeply. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Please, wherever you're listening to this podcast on, smash those buttons for me. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, kick it, bop it, skip it. All of those buttons that are available for you, please hit those buttons. Unless it's an unsubscribe, then don't hit that button. But all the other buttons, please hit for me. We are a small podcast and we only go as far as our listeners take us. We are supported by listeners like you. So please support us and share us with friends. If you'd be so kind, check out the Substack that's available at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email in and get every post, podcast, and meme dump for free emailed to you. Or if you're like me, you're an app person, download the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports, find that orange astronaut and follow there. You can click that you want notifications instead of emails. You no longer get emails, you just get a little pop-up notification to tell you when there's a new podcast, article, or meme dump. So thank you for that. Go check that out, please. Reach out on social media with your takes. Let me know how you think this Texans versus Colts matchup is going to be, or if you're paying attention to baseball still. Let me know on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, or me directly at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms, or you can call in at speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. That's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports, and your voicemail can make the podcast if it isn't too hateful or profanity ridden. Definitely let me know your take. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate each and every listener. All of y'all have made your support known and really helped me out. Thank you so much. If you'd be so kind, share this podcast with another H-Town hustler out there, another H-Town lover that needs some good news in their life. Spread the good word to them. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos, Texans, Rockets, and Dynamo.